Thank you all for being here for the official release of my first handwritten story, Falling into Hell. This is of course a fictional story, and this will only be part 1. I will be releasing part 2 exactly 3 days after the official release of this one. These stories I'm writing are for S&J Horror Emporium, the horror channel that I have put on YouTube to read my own stories to everyone. Thank you all again, and I hope you enjoy hearing the story as much as I enjoy telling it. With no more further delays, I will now begin reading. I don't know where I am, though I know where I shall soon arrive. It feels like I'm falling into a never-ending pit darker than the blackest night. I see nothing, yet I hear so much beneath me. I hear what sounds like screaming and begging louder than any outburst or plea I'd ever heard above me in the world that I was falling so far away from. I try and maneuver myself as I fall through darkness as to catch a glimpse of what lie beneath me. All I see is a small glowing light of orange and red, further down than my eyes can accurately register. As I look at the light, I can't help but feel the crushing weight of pain, hunger, sadness, freezing and burning, all at the same time. But as I feel all of this bearing down on me, I can't help but feel deserving. A silent, though seemingly eternal sense that whatever lay beneath me is a product of my own transgressions. I was never a bad man, but I wasn't exactly a good one either. At least not enough to ascend after death. Instead, I'm here, wondering how long I've been falling. I struggle to decipher exactly how I ended up here. You see, I can remember what kind of man I was, but I can't remember who I was. I'm guessing this isn't the kind of place where a name holds any meaning. Although I do remember how I died, strangely enough. It's funny, I can remember death, but not my own name. Anyway, my death is a story for later. Right now, I'm starting to feel dizzy. Like the world is fading, and my eyes grow heavier with the passing of each second, yet still I fall. I'm sorry to anyone that I've hurt. Not that it makes a difference. My head is ringing as I awake from whatever kind of trance I was placed in while falling. I can't move. I tried to, but as soon as I do, my body folds and bends unnaturally. Indescribable pain searing and spreading through all of my bones, and from what I can see upon first glance of myself, there are large gashes marring my flesh and muscle as my bones protrude outward. What the fuck is going on? I finally yell out to whoever may be around to hear me, hoping I can be helped. Somebody help me, damn it! Minutes pass, slowly turning into hours as I lay here in extreme agony. All I can do is endure a looped experience of shock, an episode which seems to last no less than 20 minutes every cycle, and never truly ends. I have only brief moments in between where I can do nothing but vomit due to the excruciating pain, and then it starts again. I can't begin to fathom how long I've been laying here going through that same torment over and over. It feels like days, if not weeks, thus far. All I know is I'm starting to lose my sense of peril and shock for this form of torture. I know that's what this is. It's fucking torture. The one thing I don't understand, though, is that I'm bored. How in the fuck could I possibly feel boredom at a time like this? Am I bored of this torture? Has it gone on for so long that I've grown accustomed to it? At the exact moment this thought enters my mind, I feel the ground beneath me quake. What the fuck? Being the only thing I managed to say before realizing that these sounds are not emanating from the ground alone. An immediate sense of dread fills my entire being as I come to yet another realization. This is the sound of something very large approaching at a labored pace. I can barely make out the obscured figure coming from behind me as I lay still broken and unable to flee, or do anything to prevent whatever horrid beast that will soon be upon me from doing what it came to do, which, by judging what I've been through so far, would be nothing short of spectacularly macabre. As it comes closer, I then see how large it truly is, even from a distance. I've become baffled at the appalling sight of it. I've seen depictions of this creature before in ancient texts throughout the span of my life. This colossal beast, now close enough to not only see but smell, is a true Nephilim, wearing the hides of 1,000 men and women. I am now both astonished and exhilaratingly terrified by this mountain of raw power before me. I can't help but to gag as it now stands directly above, looking down at me with a giant sinister grin that would undoubtedly curl the nape hairs on even the bravest of fabled Greek gods. Its smell is somehow worse than that of putrefied flesh laced with thioacetone. It is nearly indescribable and even more so unbearable. I heave so hard to puke that it causes me to spew blood and bits of my own flesh. The nameless Nephilim grabs me from the ground, lifting me as high as a building and beyond, bringing me closer to its monumental eye. An eye so infinitely gaping and black it's almost as if I'm staring into a cosmic black hole designed only to portray a hunger which can never be sated. I feel so incredibly finite in the hands of this monster. It senses my fear, and with a sound and motion that splits the air around us, crushes me in its hands until I'm barely conscious. For even as my shattered body lay there is no true death in this place. Only a moment of falling once more through the depths of despair until plummeting back into hell itself. The beast is now done with me. Its last act of torture is to slowly devour me bit by broken bit until I am no more, leaving me with no other option but to scream and cry out in excruciating ecstasy until all that is left is my twitching, severed head waiting for the maw of this beast to finish me off. Now, here I am, falling into hell once again, wondering what awaits me on its blood-stained surface. I feel wet, like I'm floating in dense darkness, everything around me a wavering hue of black and red. Suddenly my lungs begin to scream with a sensation of 1,000 licking flames, threatening to burst within the confines of their own flesh prison. I begin to panic, taking in large amounts of the fluid which surrounds me, although the memory of there being no death here allows me to compose myself. As I attempt to shoot upward through the substantial current, being thrown and beaten down by its might, I nearly manage to approach its surface, and with no moment of reprieve, I am gripped by the leg at the behest of a drowned soul. This faceless being attempting to pull me down to the bottom where it surely suffered the same fate it wishes to impose upon myself, looks pitiful and wicked. White skin etched into with black roots that seem to fade into the darkness beneath it, acting as an anchor to ensure that it never escapes its breathless torment. Only 2 pits that glow with ambient light stare up at my own damned soul. It bare no lips to speak and hath no ears to hear. Its only other facial feature is the 2 small pulsating holes which slightly resemble wide-stretched cloacae, its own grotesquely deformed nostrils. I thrash and kick with all of my might, placing heel to skull each time I do. The drowned soul lets me go just as my heel slams against one of its glowing eyes. I then shoot toward the surface with speed enough to prevent my own drowning. As soon as my head breaks through to the sulfuric air of hell once more, I rush to the shore just a few feet away, hoping not to be grabbed again. I have no more strength to fight as my lungs still pump up this bloody substance. Heaving to vomit, I expel this disgusting liquid from my stomach and lungs, helping to regain my breath. Suddenly, I hear a splash behind me coming from this ungodly river. I look and see a river of blood stretching farther than my eyes can see in both directions, branching off at points to flow across all of hell itself. In the center of the river just before me is a horde of drowned souls watching, unable to depart from their own torment. They look upon me with envy and hate. I now get the feeling that my escaping this body of blood was no stroke of luck, as there are many of these creatures trapped in the blood river, yet I was only initially met with one. "What the hell are you looking at?" I yelled. "Finish me now or return to your fucking torture." And with that, they all slowly receded back under the surface, all but one. The one I had encountered on my arrival to this river, which I now recognize as the river Styx. It simply stared at me for a brief moment before extending one long, disfigured limb to point in the direction behind me, and with that, made its inevitable descent. I turned to look at what it had been pointing at, but upon first glance saw nothing that would draw my attention. I looked back at the river and cursed that damned creature for wasting my time. As I turned back, though, I met with a sight that boggles my mind, even with everything I had already been witness to. It was a large, dilapidated city, its buildings barely standing, made apparent by the obvious rubble which surrounds the city itself as it crumbles but never falls. How in God's name did I not see this before? I asked myself, knowing the question to be rhetorical. I can't believe it, I muttered. What is this I stopped mid-sentence, just as I noticed a large ancient shrine over the city entrance which reads in Latin, Urbe mortis inferno, liberatis rex in domum domini, Moloch destinatur domum senum curus, which roughly translates in English to Sheol, the city of death, home of the king Moloch, house of the chariot. For a moment, I am in awe at the fact that I could read Latin. I'd barely been able to read my own language in my time on earth, as I was never very smart. But as I went to contemplate this thought, I remembered that this place is by no means normal. Nothing makes sense, therefore it doesn't have to. With that, I made my way toward the city of death, making sure to be as careful and quiet as possible. It would be a waste to fall again so soon due to some stupid mistake. I have to find a way out of this place. I have to keep moving forward.